All right, so we are on determining values. So just to recap, like we've done so many times in this unit, you're probably sick of hearing it, but y equals mx plus b is the linear function where m represents the slope, and b represents the y-intercept. Now, this is an equation, okay? Equation, y equals mx plus b. We can rewrite it as a function by just changing out the y with an f of x, okay? And this is, the f stands for function of x because x is our variable that we're using. Because we know m and we know b when we have this kind of equation. So that was just a little recap, switching gears a little bit. Given the following equation, actually it's a function, that's a typo, and the graph of the equation, determine the value of f of 4 and the value of x when f of x equals -1. Okay, so here is our equation. And we're going to use it to determine f of 4. So this means when x is 4, because it's f of x. Okay, so do we see that? Do we see that jump, how I did that? F of x, f of 4, so x equals 4. Hopefully you see that. I'm going to take my function here and plug 4 in for x. So I have, 3 halves times 4 minus 4. Okay, if I typed that into my equation or into my calculator, 3 halves times 4 is 6. 6 minus 4 equals 2. So when x equals 4, f of 4 equals 2. Okay, and that is how I write my final answer for that one. And then the second one, when f of x equals -1. Okay, so f of x equals -1, what will x equal? Because f of x, I'm going to replace, let me change colors here. I'm going to take f of x to equal 1, just like if m equaled -1. I'd plug it in for m, but this time f of x equals -1. So I'm going to plug in -1 for f of x. So we have -1 equals 3 halves x minus 4. And I'm solving for x. So we'll add 4 to both sides. We'll get 3 equals 3 halves x. And then how do I get that 3 halves to the other side? Well, right now it's 3 halves times x. So if I multiply, so I need to divide, which is the same thing as multiplying by the reciprocal, because then what happens? The 2's cancel and the 3's cancel, and I'm left with 1. So I'm going to multiply both sides by 2/3. Okay, and then it's 2/3 times 3/1. These 3's are actually going to cancel, so I'll be left with 2 equaling, not 2x, 2 to equal x. So when f of x equals -1, then x equals 2. And that's how I write my answer. Let's highlight that. Okay, then this next one, so we're going to use, this time we're given a graph. So f of 4, so f of 4, remember f of x, so x equals 4. What will y equal? So when x equals 4, so I'm going to look at this x-axis, okay, axis 4 is right here, and then I'm going to follow it up to the line. So when x equals 4, y equals 2. So f of 4 equals 2. Okay, so replace that question mark with a 2, and that is my final answer for 1. And then the second one, when f of x equals -1. So in this case, y equals -1, because remember, up here we said y and f of x were the same thing. So when y equals -1, what will x equal? So I'm going to go to my graph, and on the y-axis, I'm going to look for 1. Okay, follow it over to the line. So when y equals -1, x equals 2. Okay, y equals -1, x equals 2. Notice that they are the same because this equation is the same as the graph, and it is the answers on the answer key are incorrect because I want to see if you're actually following along with the video or if you're just copying from the answer key. Okay, then I'm going to do this second one with you, and then I'll let you guys try the last two on your own. So f of x equals 2/5 x, or -2/5 x plus 8. So when f of 10 equals what? So x equals 10, what will y equal? And then when f of x equals -2, what will x equal? So for this first one, I'm going to plug in 10 for x. Okay, so -2/5 times 10 plus 8. -2/5 times 10. If I used my calculator or did it in my head, I would get -4 plus 8. And I know my work is getting a little messy. Let me try and rewrite it. Okay. So f of 10 equals f of 10 equals, so f of 10 equals 4. Okay, we'll highlight my answer there. Perfect. All right, so f of x equals -2. So I'm going to take this f of -2 and I'll plug in -2 for f of x. So we'll get, change colors, -2 equals -2/5 x plus 8. So let's subtract 8 to both sides, and we get -10 equals -2/5 x. And just like in the last one, to move this fraction to the other side, I'm going to multiply by its reciprocal. So -5/2. And when I do that, I get 25 to equal x. All right, let's make this just a tad smaller because okay, there we go. All right, and then this next one, the last one that we'll do together, f of 2. So in this one, x equals 2. What does y equal? So we'll go to the x-axis, we'll find 2 right here. We'll follow it up to find the y value. And so this is 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So y equals 9 when x equals 2. And then when f of x equals 5, so y equals 5, what does x equal? So we go to the y-axis, and I find 5, which happens to be right on the line. So that means that y equals 0. Or I'm sorry, y equals 5, so x equals 0. Because that point right there, x equals 0. Okay, so go ahead, try the last two on your own.